Some interesting retirement withdrawal strategies using the Wellesley Fund. Now, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Wellesley Fund. If I had one, do not take my recommendation. If the commies came with a freaking AK, put it to my head and say, one fund, Scanlon, would be, it'd be the Wellesley Income Fund, without question. I love the Wellesley, big fan, long time. I don't know who Mrs. or Mrs. Wellesley is, but would they marry me? If it's a Mr., maybe I'll go that way. Maybe I'll experiment. But Wellesley is obviously part of the Wellington Investment Company. It was incepted in 1970, so we can't go back to 1970 because we don't have a full year, but we can go to 1971. And that just happens to correspond with the beginning of the great inflation that America went through from basically, essentially 1968, 9, all the way up till 1982 or so. And we've never seen anything like it, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again. But anyway, I could be wrong. Who knows? I'm not God. I just know that Pablo, every time I start yapping, he wants to, there he is. He's like a shark over here. So come on. All right. So, I'm just working on this book, and I just got so much data in there. It makes my mind just spin, and I like it, but it's really kind of frustrating because all these look at these spreadsheets on top. I'm just like, I don't know how I keep track, but I really don't. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to have Wellesley, all right? Excuse me. And we're going to use, starting in 1971, we're going to have $1 million in our portfolio, and we're going to use a 4% rule. Then we're going to use a 5% rule, all right, where we're taking 5% a year adjusted for inflation. 6% I did, but 6% ran out in 20 years, so we're going to scratch that. Then we're going to go 8% fixed, 9% fixed, and 10% fixed, all right? So what we're going to see is we've got a 4% rule, a 5% rule, 8, 9, and 10% fixed. And we want to see how this shook out because, again, we're starting into a massive inflationary period in the 1970s. Wellesley is predominantly bonds, so it should have got smoked. Right? That's what they all tell us. Inflation destroys bonds. All right, so what we're going to see here is, first thing we know is that the 5% rule ran out of money in year 29. All right, so we ran out of money. The 5% rule adjusted for inflation, though, we were able to take out $3.8 million in that portfolio. So I actually like the 5% rule, but in terms of it didn't survive 30 years, so we're going to nix that. Nix it. What the hell? 4 dicks? I don't know. All right, so the 4% rule, again, so look, the 4% rule, we're taking 41,000 out. The 5% rule, we're taking basically 25% more than that the first year. The 8% rule, we're taking 100% more than that the first year, and you can see right here. So anyway, so the 4% rule did last, and our last year, we're taking $177,000 out, 4% adjusted with inflation just being the CPI. So we ended up taking $3.3 million out, which is even $500,000 less than the 5% rule. All right, so the last year, the 5% rule before it ran out of money had $210,000 you were taking out. So you were taking out 4 times what you started with, all right, which is pretty significant actually. But you can see that ran out and the 4% rule did not. Now the 4% rule, you died with $6 million left. 6.8, crazy. 8% fixed, we're just taking $80,000 out, so it never ran out of money. You took $2.4 million out, which is $900,000 less than the 4% rule, and you're left with $5.5 million. So people are like, oh, the 4% rule smoked the 8% fixed, and we'll talk about that here in a second. The 9% or $90,000 fixed, you took out $2.7 million, which is $600,000 less than the 4% rule, but you left less than a half of what the 4% rule did. And then just for giggles, I threw up this 10% rule thing here. And I said, how much we took out 10% a year? $100,000 fixed. Here you took out $3 million, which is just a little bit less than the 4% rule, $300,000, about 10% less than the 4% rule. But instead of leaving $6.8 million, you only left $547,000. But I found that very interesting. Even the 10% fixed did not run out of money in 1971 to 2000. Again, the midst of the highest inflationary times there were. And I'm going to try this in 1990 as well, in 1980 and see. But I think I already did. I just can't remember. But anyway, so let's look at what the graphs show us here. And again, I post all this on my LinkedIn, my Facebook page, and my X page. Ideally, you follow me on X. Because if you follow me on X and I get a big enough audience, I don't know, but apparently I can make some money. I don't know, but we'll see. So here's the issue. The red is the 8, the yellow is the 9, and the 10 is the green. All right, so you can see we're never adjusting our withdrawals ever. We're just taking a fixed rate of return or fixed rate of withdrawal. Here's a 4% rule, significantly under these other rules until right there in 1979. The 4% rule finally, does it show us on here? I'm not sure how to figure it out. But anyway, right there, 1979, the 4% rule finally beat the 8% fixed. So 9 years into retirement, before the 4% rule caught up with the 8% fixed, and those are your best years of retirement. It didn't catch up to the 9% rule until 1981. So 11 years of retirement, 11 years of retirement, 1971 to 1981. You took out more money with the 9% fixed than you did with the 4% rule. All right, and that's a primo time retirement. 10% rule didn't catch up with it until 1980. I think it was right there, 1983. So basically, it took the first half of your retirement before the 10% rule is paying you more income than the 4% rule, and we're talking significantly more here. I mean, these are the fun years right here. Now, these are the back years, and you can see these back years like, oh man, you're spending a lot more money, $177,000 in the back year, which is 77% more than the 10% rule, which is 177, 80,000 more than that, and almost double that. So you can see you're spending double here, but you're spending double here as well. So what's happening here is with the 4% rule, you're way reducing your expenditures well, your front end of retirement to have a lot more expenditures on the back end of retirement. And you're leaving more money to your heirs, significantly more money in this scenario. 6.8 million versus 5 versus 3 versus 547,000 bucks. And you can see right here. So if you just look at this chart right here, it looks like the 4% rule, which is blue, smoked the other two. 4% rule, you had more money, you took out more money, and you left more money. Isn't that a win? No, it's not a win because that didn't happen. You didn't take out more money until here, until your latter part of your retirement. When A, you might have been dead. Many of you would have been dead. And B, you're freaking sitting there with your hip replacements, knee replacements. You're like, I don't want to do anything. Whereas so you're sacrificing these years for these years. And the nice thing about the 5% rule, which I like, but I'm going to have a better strategy in this book, is it just to tighten your belt when things go south. This isn't freaking rocket science. You're not JPL, JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab. Man, you even want to know the founder of JPL. Dude, you do not look into Jet Propulsion Labs. Do not look at that guy. Oh, these are some evil mofos, man. Do not look at the biggest NASA guy there was, Wernher von Braun. You got JPL, Wernher von Braun. This is our space, the legacy of our space industry. Kind of creepy. Anyway, so the point being, even with the 10%, you didn't run out of money. You just spent more like a drunken sailor for the first 15 years. Then you had to spend less relative to the 4% rule when you're freaking decrepit anyway. I figured I'd share that with you. This is 1971. And I just want to show you, though. Oh, bonds get killed with inflation, Josh. Don't you know? Here's our inflation. 1971, 4.4, 3.2, 6.2, 11, 9, 6, 6, 7, 11, 13, 10, 6. If you can survive that, you're probably in pretty good shape. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go to 1990 to avoid these great years in the 1980s. Because the 1980s had great years. And 1990 had good years, quite good years, actually. Aughts didn't have good. And then, so it's going to kind of go like that. And I'm going to do that next. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And we'll see. Again, I'm not saying invest in the Wellesley fund. I'm not saying that at all. If I recommend something, go the opposite direction. If you're smart, you'll go the opposite direction. All right, God bless. Love your thoughts. Smash and subscribe.